Now and again, you come across an artefact in a museum collection that says, "I was there," absolutely screams it at you. And for me, the map we have here does that. It's a trench map, printed at a scale of 1 to 10,000, and it's the sheet for overlay. And this is the centre of the Somme battlefield. This is the absolute hinge point, because coming up the middle is the big straight long Roman road from Albert to Bapaume, and then you've got the villages of Auvillers-la-Boisselle, and Pozières. All names have gone down in military history. It's a grey base print with woods, villages, the landscape printed on, and then there's an overprint of enemy trenches, which are in red. And there's an absolute mass of them here. We didn't put our trenches on because if this map was captured, we'd be giving the enemy the gift of intelligence, and we didn't want to do that. Fairly certain this map was being carried by an officer of 1st Battalion of the Dorset Regiment. And on the 1st of July, they were part of the 2nd wave. So they had to advance through this area here, which is Authille wood, up to our front line, which has been added in pencil, and then across no man's land. Now the idea here is by the time they started coming forward, about an hour after the main offensive had started, the enemy front line trench would be taken, and they were able to go straight through onto their objective, which was a place called Moquet Farm, which is up here. That wasn't the case. When the Dorsets started forward through Authille wood at 07:30 hours on the 1st of July 1916, they were greeted with a storm of machine gun and artillery fire. And most of them, an awful lot of them, didn't make it as far as our front line. Never mind getting across into the enemy lines at all. What went wrong? Well, opposition was supposed to have been completely obliterated by the week-long bombardment before the attack began. 1,500 guns fired, 1.5 million shells. And the thought is, that'll do it. There won't even be a rat left alive. Nothing could stand that. The barbed wire will be in shreds. You'll be able to go straight through. This was a miscalculation. The barrage did not succeed in the way that it was supposed to. A lot of the shells were duds, and a lot of them were light shells. They were field artillery. And they'd explode on the surface and they'd crater the ground. But an awful lot of enemy soldiers were deep underground in these things called bunkers. And some of these things are 20 metres down in the solid rock in the chalk. Enough of them survive so that when the shell fire stops, they climb up from their bunkers, sight their machine guns, and they're ready for British soldiers trying to cross across no man's land. And then we come to probably the most famous statistic of the war. British casualties on the first day of the Somme were almost 58,000 dead and wounded. A lot of play is made of this, but it's dreadful. It's an appalling statistic, but it's by far from the whole story, because the Somme is not one day, it's 141 days. And it goes on right into the winter, right into November. And it's during this time that the British Army really does start to learn its trade, because after the first day, things change. We use artillery differently. We start to use wireless communication so we know what's going on. We use aircraft. And also on the 15th of September 1916, a weapon that's been with us ever since is used for the first time on the battlefield, the tank. This map, like I said, this just shrieks, I'm there, I was there. It's a field document. It's been chopped about. Somebody's taken a section out here for use for some other reason. It's covered in blobs of mud. And there's another thing. Over on the back, somebody's done a little field sketch of enemy trenches and some woods behind, and that was most likely done by the officer who was carrying this map with just in pencil, probably while looking through a periscope over the parapet of his trench.